From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hujavandi
and Corey Clark.
Just hear those sleigh bells jingling, ring, ting, tingling too.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, 30 minutes of Thomas Castellanos talk. Buckle up, everybody. The portal is open. Who's coming to Florida State? Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Promo code Corey Clark, poor favor.
warchantbogo. Still rolling with that one, huh?
Hey, if it ain't broke, why
right.
fix it, friend? Why fix it? Buy one, get one free when you go to vitaminenergy.com and use the promo code warchantbogo, warchant, B-O-G-O. Vitamins, nutrients, all in a clinically tested, clinically proven formula to, again, increase your pumps in the gym, increase your focus at the office, on the battlefield, whatever you're doing, field of play, office meetings, big-time corporate takeovers. If you're part of that kind of stuff, why not take a little Focus Plus? Get yourself going good. Mood Plus, Immune Plus, all these different varieties, flavors. They're all available for buy one, get one free when you use promo code warchantbogo over at vitaminenergy.com. And again, we're trying to tell you, everybody, put these in stockings. Doesn't take up a lot of space, and you pull it out, you're like, oh, awesome. Thanks for that. Thanks for subscribing to warchant.com, everybody. That's a subscriber of warchant.com. We certainly appreciate the heck out of all of you folks. Hit the thumbs up, 5-star rating and review. I don't know if the 150 deal is going on any longer. Probably not. I should know these things, but I don't. I do know this, though. Corey Clark's here, and he's going to bring the heat. What's up, Corey Clark?
What's up, buddy? You ready for some hot takes?
Dude, I am ready, man. Can we just get right to it?
Yeah, I don't really have any, but let's go.
All right,
Can we
so
just make some stuff up?
We'll probably no show tomorrow because I'm going to be suspended with pay for doing what I'm about to do here, Corey, which is I'm going to verbatim read premium content from the On3 network, courtesy of our great friend Pete Nako. So you ready?
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's go.
I don't think everybody listening is ready. I wish I could see all your faces. Boston College quarterback Thomas Castellanos tells On3 that he will visit Florida State on Wednesday. That's tomorrow. A source tells On3 this could be the type of recruitment where Castellanos visits and makes a quick decision. It adds up with offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn now in Tallahassee. A decision could be coming quickly.
Yeah.
Woo! We're coming off a 2-10 season. This offense was anemic. I know he's had one good season, one meh season, but it just feels like what he was in 23 is probably it's a easy to reproduce facsimile when you put Gus at the controls, give him a running back. I mean, he never had any kind of really supremely talented receivers. Had a good offensive line, though. He did have a very good offensive line at Boston College. That's going to be something Herb Hand is now in charge of, who's officially part of the, well, not officially, but we now know that he's going to be the offensive line coach. But you could do worse, I just feel like. I feel like you could do a lot worse than him. We know that the quarterback from Liberty also might be on the radar. That was something that popped later on Sunday before we got to your Monday show, everybody. But you've let out this pensive sigh, Corey. I'll let you take over from here. Go ahead.
Yeah, look, we've talked about him. We'll continue to talk about him, I guess, if he's going to be on campus. In 2023, his first year as a starter, he didn't even start that season. I think he came in the second game of the year, and then Florida State fans were terrorized by him for 3 hours. He ran for 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns. He was as dynamic a running quarterback as any quarterback in the country, legitimately. I don't know how many times he was sacked. I should look that up, but I bet if you took away the sack yardage, he probably ran for like 1,250 yards and might have led the ACC in rushing without that, or maybe one of those North Carolina kids would have led it anyway. But he was one of the top five. He would have been one of the top 5 rushers in the ACC if he wasn't already. That's more yards than Benson. So it's pretty remarkable what kind of athlete he is. Let's not lose sight of that. What bothers me is during that year, which was, again, his first year with not a lot of probably skill talent around him, at least out wide, he threw 15 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. This year, he bumped that up. He also completed 57% of his passes. This year, he bumped that up to 62% of his passes, 18 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. But he was benched. but he was benched
I
with
thought it was
4
gonna
games
be
left.
Buddy didn't run for anywhere near what he ran
194 yards. Yeah, he ran for 1,000 yards less almost. And also had, it looks to me like 130 less carries than he did the season before that. And some of that was injury. Some of that was the offense. They didn't want him to do that. Look, he is an intriguing prospect. I guess in this instance, and also I should add this, I guess, Aslan, the 1 year he was at UCF with Malzahn, he barely played, but he ran 14 times for 120 yards. So
good average.
You take that, right, everyone? You take an 8.6 yard average from your quarterback. So, look, I think that what you'd have to do, we all have thoughts on Castellanos. We all think and hope, I guess, and expect even for Florida State to do better than that. But if that's who Malzahn wants, I think there's a reason, and I think he thinks he could get this offense humming, or thinks, look, we're not going to have a great offensive line in 1 year, even though we just got a new O-line coach. It's going to be hard to put together a competent, good offensive line, but a running quarterback helps alleviate a lot of the woes that can come from a average to bad offensive line. So that's what they're thinking, and I think we would both agree, right, Aslan, that I'm no way saying Castellanos is the best quarterback available. I have to imagine he's the best running quarterback available. Right? One of them, anyway. One of the top 3 or 5. There's nobody that's running like this kid.
Well, the Salter kid from Liberty, he ran for 1089 last year and dropped down to 587, which is considerably better than dropping down from 1,100 yards to less than 200, which is what Castellanos did this past season. But it's also Liberty. Don't think they're playing, the rough and tumble ACC. Yeah, we've got Campbell and New Mexico State. FIU, Kennesaw State. I mean, these are teams that have fired their coaches. I don't know if Campbell has, but, I know that FIU has. Kennesaw State has as well. So not sure it's an apples-to-apples comparison. But I just, when we talk about Florida State can do better, I'm not arguing that. I don't think Thomas Castellanos is top shelf, aged 18 years just right. But right now what's out there, I mean, the Mensa kid from Tulane seems a little bit intriguing, but I don't know what kind of traction is there. But again, we can be mad. Let's be mad at Aslan. Let's not be mad at the coaching staff. They've had people on their backs for the last 8 months or whatnot. But just the fact that every single day on 3, we seem to be reporting something from the national desk about Castellanos and Florida State interest. I mean, if they're moving this quickly to get him on campus, they obviously like him and the fit that he can be. And you guys like trusting the coaches. Can I trust the coaches for once here, Corey?
Sure, buddy. And, looking at his stats last year, he had 3 games of at least 128 yards rushing.
19 sacks, by the way, last year.
Yeah, I saw that. 5 against Louisville, got after him. He got sacked 5 times against Louisville and still had 10 carries for 49 yards. So that probably means against Louisville, he had 5 carries for 70 yards. And a touchdown. And that was the game after the Florida State game. And just to remind everyone, in that game, he went 20 of 33 for 305 yards, which is nuts, and then ran for another 95. He had 400 yards of total offense against the number 3 team in the country and a defense with Verse and Fisk and all those guys. So he is a dynamic kid. It's just, yes, the Tulane kid is a better pro prospect. He's a better thrower of the football. And I think it worries Florida State fans, with good reason, that he just bounced in the middle of a season. With his team still, just doing that, with his team still playing meaningful games, meaningful for Boston College anyway, and then enter the portal that quick. You know what I mean? Just completely kind of quit, and then his coach called him out for it. But I would love to know what Hafley thinks of him. Hafley's the guy that was the coach in 2023 that left to be the is he an NFL coach now?
Yeah, it was the Packers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. And I'd love to know what Malzahn thinks of him. I guess I would say this: Malzahn was around him for a year and recruited him a year before that. So, and the fact that he left Malzahn and now Malzahn clearly is interested in bringing him back makes you think that he might not be the pariah that his current coach made him out to be. But when you leave in the middle of a season, it's going to rub people the wrong way, even teams that are fans that aren't a fan of that team. It's going to rub them the wrong way, and it's going to make you skeptical. So If he comes here and runs for 130 against Alabama, all that and they win, then all that skepticism is gone. But, I think Florida State fans are probably hoping for a better name, maybe a future NFL quarterback that would be willing to come here, but that might be but honestly, it might be too much to ask. You just went 2-10. You're bringing in an offensive coordinator that, while he has produced some great offenses, he's not really a quarterback guru.
No.
So it might be hard to attract the likes of the Tulane kid, who I think probably envisions himself to be an NFL quarterback. He was like the number 6 passer in the country. He might not want to come to a run-heavy offense that right now has 0 receivers that anybody knows about or cares about. You know what I mean? Like, it might be a hard sell to go get you one of those Cam Ward type, because you don't have anything to sell right now. Like, you get money, but they're going to want to up their stock by throwing to really good players. And while we all think, or at least many of us think, that these young Florida State wide receivers might be something someday, why would the New Mexico kid care or think that? Or the people in his camp, or the Tulane kid, or this kid, or that kid, or the Liberty kid? Like, there's no proof. So you understand why they might not be in that one position. They might not be shopping from the same stores as Ohio State and Oregon and Alabama.
Ironically, maybe the best quarterback Gus has had since he's been a head coach, which, again, he's not the head coach here now, so maybe we shouldn't keep talking about it this way. He was the offensive coordinator when they had Cam Newton. But he actually had Malik Willis. Like, he recruited Malik Willis when he was at Auburn, and he actually said that Malik was probably the closest thing that he's seen to Cam Newton. But he ended up leaving and going to Liberty, Malik Willis, and now he's in the league, and he's backing up Jordan Love or whoever's in Green Bay. So, I mean, him and Jarrett Stidham, those guys are in the pros. But otherwise, I mean, it's Sean White, it's Jeremy Johnson, it's, Nick Marshall. So those guys obviously did not make it to the next level. So John Rice Plumlee's on a roster, I think, right now. I think he's on P Squad, or I think he's with the Seahawks. So there's a little bit of that, but yeah, there's not this. It's not Steve Sarkisian,
right? But Nick Marshall
Lane.
won a lot of, and quite honestly, right now, Florida State fans don't need that. You need to win football games in Tallahassee.
Yes.
You don't need to worry about some weekend in May. Where kids are getting drafted. You've got to win games now. Apparently they think Castellanos is the way to do that. I wonder, too, if – and, again, this is all speculation. He hasn't even arrived in Tallahassee yet. But if he does arrive and they do offer him –
well, he's going to arrive. He's coming on Wednesday.
Well, okay, it's not Wednesday yet. Plans change, Aslan.
Okay.
But if and when he does show up and he commits, I don't know that that's necessarily the type of name that makes Luke Kromenhoek hop into the portal. You know what I mean? Okay. I don't know that you're that scared of competing with Thomas Castellanos. But I would also say, I would imagine Luke Kromenhoek fancies himself a future NFL quarterback. He's certainly got the frame for it. I don't know. There's such – and he's a decent athlete. He's more than decent. He's a good athlete. Mm-hmm. But he's not Thomas Castellanos good. They're two totally. I think Castellanos 5'11",
5'9".
He's basically
5'9".
He's a running back that can throw. That's what he is. He moves like a running back is what I should say. I don't want to impugn his ability to lead an offense, but he moves like a running back. He has moves like a running back. He's as fast as running backs. He is a different kind of cat. And I think that maybe they're just Mike Norvell and Malzahn have decided, in year one, when we don't know what kind of receivers we're going to have. Heck, we don't even know who the receivers coach is. Let's just do everything we can to make sure we can run for 200 yards per game. If we can run for 200 yards per game, we have a chance to win some games, maybe a lot of games. And maybe the best way to do that is with a kid that can average 60 yards a game rushing from the quarterback spot and opens up everything else for our other running backs. That's something to think about, I think. That, to me, it tells you what kind of offense they're trying to run in year one anyway, if Castellanos is the guy.
A lot of this is me also just being the rage against the culture machine guy, because, I bought into the culture, but I'm back to where I was 2-3 years ago, where it's just really good players. It's like high character, high caliber, talented players is what culture is, because, everyone talks about the culture change this past year, and it's, those 10 guys were great human beings that are now playing on Sundays mostly. but they're also really wildly talented. So give me a bunch of those guys. I'm not saying necessarily Castellanos is that guy.
Correct.
But,
he is not.
And it obviously doesn't have a good resume when it comes to being like a good locker room glue guy because he did leave Boston College. But who knows? Maybe Bill O'Brien said something to him that made him feel like kind of like a jerk, and he didn't appreciate it. And he's got a code, and he decided to walk away from it. He wants to be back in Florida. So we'll see how it all goes. Just I sympathize as well because obviously how bad the season has been. And, Norvell's hit some of the right notes on this fall to the bottom in terms of just taking ownership, taking accountability. I'm going to get this thing fixed. It's going to be immediate, quick fix. Makes a good hire with Gus. It is hard to really look at anything from Tony White and say anything even remotely skeptical or negative about that hire and what he can be. Same thing for Terrence Knighton. So, this is the one thing where everyone's like, all right, man, everything's going great right now. Like, he's bringing in these real big boy coaches. He's not messing around. And then, the next most important piece of this entire thing is getting the quarterback right. And, Thomas Castellanos is not the guarantee fix for this thing. So now it's like, all right, everything's going so great. All right, next, what's the next domino that needs to fall in our favor? It's our quarterback. But this is the first guy they're probably bringing in right now, it sounds like. And everybody's up in arms over it. And it's, I don't know, just half amusing, but half I want to put my arms around it. Like, it's going to be okay, everybody. Trust the process.
Yeah,
but also,
you would want they've done so well here. To me, anyway, I think the news has been so good since the end of that Florida game.
Yeah,
that this is and I think you have a good chance with some of these Nebraska defensive players that are in the portal, seeing this their DC and their D-line coach are now in Tallahassee. That you just thought you'd aim a little higher than that. Like your first quarterback visit wouldn't be a guy that got benched, not even quit his team. Got benched at Boston College. That's what could and I think he was injured. I think he was hurt. Maybe that had something to do with the animosity that he feels like he lost his job with an injury, or he didn't get a fair shake when he came back from the injury, whatever it may be. But golly, I know Florida State fans. The quarterback play was so bad, literally the worst quarterback play in the country this season. I guess I can't say literally. It has to be in the conversation. If you were putting a Mount Rushmore together of the worst quarterback play in 2024 in college football, Florida State would be on there. I don't know whose face you use, but all three of them, I guess. But they're up there. It was awful. And so to say, okay, this is going to be our quick and immediate fix is a guy that was benched. Yeah, all right. But at the same time, I would if it does come to fruition, and I'm certainly not going to be the homer that's going to tell you, it's a slam dunk. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely they're going to win 10 games next year. I'm not ever doing that again. But I'm certainly not going to do it with the addition of Thomas Castellanos. But I would tell you guys, go watch him from 2023 now. That kid was a dynamic player. And what I like, although I don't like him being benched, I don't like him quitting, is his biggest problem in 2023 was the 14 interceptions. Well, he cut that down to 5. Now, he also cut his running by 900 yards. But, okay, so if the running ability is in there and he can avoid turnovers at that rate, well, if you combine those 2 years and give him some real weapons, you might have something. Or you might have a swing and a miss. And I think Florida State fans would like more of a sure thing, a guarantee, after the debacle they had at that position this year.
Just we haven't seen that kind of name, and I understand, and then I'll be more serious. And I understand. I don't think we've seen, I shouldn't say I don't think, we have not seen that name. And we have not seen that name where you're like, that guy, that makes sense. There's been some intriguing guys that are out there. The quarterback from North Texas. Like, to me,
yeah,
that looks like a guy that I figured Mike would be all over. But again, this could be part of, Gus's agreement to come here. He's like, listen, I'm gonna pick out the guy I want.
Yeah. And they might absolutely have decided, whatever we do, we need to just get an athlete. We got to get the best available athlete. We have to. And, you can, like, I don't know if the North Texas kid can run. I do think that this offense in 2025, and maybe for the rest of our lifetimes, will need a quarterback that's mobile, that can get you first downs, that can move the chains, and maybe break off a 50-yarder. That's the way, but especially this year coming up, that might be the best way they can see a scenario where they can run for 200 yards a game, because that is all
But
Gus
don't you have that
Malzahn's
with Luke?
offense is due.
But don't you have that with Luke?
Maybe. I think that if you're going to everything being – look, man, I'll say it. Thomas Castellanos right now is a better quarterback than Luke Kromenhoek. He just is.
Oh, don't check your mentions, Corey. Don't check your
mentions.
mentions.
He is. I mean, I watch Luke Kromenhoek play every down. And Thomas Castellanos, I would trust him more against Alabama than Luke Kromenhoek. That's the Kromenhoek I know. It's the Kromenhoek you know, not the Kromenhoek you don't know. Somebody said that, right? But only because, and that's no offense to Luke, obviously. It's just that we saw what we saw this year. He wore the rush all the time, but that's also because he had a horrible offensive line. Hopefully, Coach Hand, and I said that Coach because I can't. Is it Herb?
It
that
is.
His first name?
It is correct.
All right, there we go. Herb Hand. If he gets him a better offensive line, Kromenhoek might look awesome. But I will tell you this: like this year, Florida State. If Thomas Castellanos is the quarterback, they beat Duke. They don't give up 5 sacks to whoever Kromenhoek got sacked 5 times by. They probably have a chance against North Carolina, like only because he's experienced and he can move around and avoid pressure a little bit better than Kromenhoek. Kromenhoek is a fine athlete, but Castellanos, is a unique, dynamic athlete, and right now he's more of a. I don't want to say sure bet because that sounds like I think he's a guaranteed success. Just go look at what Kromenhoek's numbers were. And again, I know put it up with the context matters, the people he was playing with, the offensive line, the skill positions, all that matters. But he led probably out of all his drives, he probably had 9 or 10% of them were touchdown drives. And one of them was on the craziest quarterback sneak we've ever seen. That started there was a 4th and 1 that should have been blown up and said he ran for 40-something yards. It was not a work of art. Castellanos, is just more experienced, probably a little bit more poised, more savvy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not saying this time next year, Kromenhoek might be worlds better than Castellanos. But right now, as we sat here in the fall of 2024, Castellanos would have been a better option than any of the 3 guys they ran out there. Not because he's a better passer of the football, he's not. But he could have made people miss in the pocket. He could have helped the running game immensely, and he is a better thrower of the football, I think, in a pocket presence. And he's not great in the pocket. He's better in the pocket right now than Kromenhoek. Don't at me on that. It's the truth. And he's a better thrower of the football than Brock Glenn, and he's a better runner than both. Much better. So that's why I'm saying. But he also might already be at his ceiling. And his ceiling ain't exactly sky high, is it, folks? Kromenhoek's ceiling might be – I don't even know what Kromenhoek's ceiling is. I literally can't even imagine it. But, I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't say I can't imagine it. Like
Cade Klubnik.
Mahomes. It could be something like that. It could be higher than that. It could be much lower than that. We have no idea because of who he played with. But Castellanos immediately becomes your starter, I think, if he's here. That doesn't mean he holds Kromenhoek off. Kromenhoek might make a huge leap when you give him real weapons to throw to and a real offensive line to block from. But right now, if Castellanos signed tomorrow or Wednesday, I think he's immediately QB1, and then you go from there. But Kromenhoek could wrestle it away. But also I would say that about Aslan. I think I'd say that about dozens of quarterbacks. Kromenhoek needs a year to learn, man, in my opinion. He needs a year, not a year to learn, a year to get some comfortability. I couldn't imagine him starting against Alabama next year.
Well, Alabama's losing guys left and right. Couple names. Well, actually, no. Forget naming names. Let's name the best place to hang out if you're in Tallahassee, everybody. That's the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Daily lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. for only $8.99. Each entree comes with a side dish of your choosing. I think you need like 2 hands to count all the different options they have for their side dishes. All of them delicious. Don't forget 7 o'clock trivia going down, everybody. Make some noise one time. Then Thursday night is bingo night. 4 rounds, $250 cash up for grabs each single round. And then if you're not going to be traveling around the country trying to watch a playoff game just to be part of the insanity of watching these games on campuses, just, saddle up to the bar or one of the high top tables of the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Enjoy the drink specials, the happy hours from 4 to 7 o'clock weekdays, and the cold beverages. They're always ice cold, just right. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida, 2475 Appalachia Parkway.
It's crazy, man, when you look at Castellanos' numbers this season, the 2024 season. He ran for 73 yards against Florida State, and then he ran for 121 yards the rest of the season. What's that about?
I don't know.
Against Virginia, he had -9 yards rushing. His last game was against Syracuse. He was 2 for 7 for 14 yards, got sacked twice, and then had 5 carries for 10 yards. So, minus 10 yards. So he must have just finally that Syracuse game was enough to be like, yeah, we're done with him. So you wonder what happened, because some of these numbers, they're not bad. I mean, he was 16 to 28 against Mizzou for 249 yards and 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. But, I mean, those are good enough. Florida State would have killed for those numbers against anyone this season. And I know Missouri didn't end up being the number 6 team in the country, but they're a top 20 team. That was on the road. He went 16 of 28 for 250 and 3 touchdowns. Remember, Florida State didn't score more than 2 touchdowns in any game all season, not named Charleston Southern. And then Virginia, he was 22 of 30 for 254 and 2 touchdowns. The next game, he had 17 of 26 for 205.
You're convincing yourself, Corey. I like it.
I'm just, people are going to drive off the road thinking that I'm saying that he's better than Kromenhoek. But look, we have no idea what Kromenhoek is. We have no idea how he fits into the Malzahn offense. But whatever it was this year, you can't run that version back. And why would you think it's going to be that version? Again, he'll be a year older, blah, blah, blah. All the players around him will be better. But you can't take a chance that he might just be one of those kids that just stares at the rush the whole time and collapses in the pocket.
Unlikely, but it's... Yeah,
he probably isn't that guy, but you don't know that for sure. You know Castellanos isn't one of those guys because he's got 20-something starts under his belt and a lot of really good games under his belt. You know, he threw for over 200 yards in 4 games this year and like 6 games last year. No Florida State quarterback. Brock Glenn and Kromenhoek didn't do that. Well, I guess Brock Glenn did, maybe against Clemson. And I keep saying Kromenhoek and not Brock Glenn. I think we both assume because Kromenhoek got the start against Florida. And did Brock Glenn play in that game?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, they did. Okay, the writing was on the wall that Kromenhoek was the guy they were going with. But maybe Kromenhoek enters the portal, and Brock Glenn is the guy that stays. Maybe they both enter the portal. Maybe they both stay. Who knows? I just know that right now Castellanos or somebody of that ilk, literally dozens of other guys, would come in with a stronger foothold in my mind to be the starting quarterback just because of the experience they have, the game experience, and the real live plays they've made in real live college football games.
It's Wake Up Warchant. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, buddy. Sorry, you go ahead.
I want to welcome us back in. It is Wake Up Warchant. It is presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, promo code warchantbogo. Use that. Chandler Morris is my guy at North Texas. Started his career at Oklahoma, then went to TCU, got hurt. And then that Max Duggan kid ended up taking TCU all the way to the national title game, where they fell just a bit short to Georgia.
Yeah, it was close.
He then started the first 6 games last season for TCU before getting injured. He threw for 1,500 yards in those 6 games, had 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Got hurt again. I'm sure that frustrated Sonny Dykes, probably frustrated Chandler Morris, decided for a change of scenery. So went on to his third school. He's at North Texas this past season, completed 63% of his passes for 3,774 yards, 31 touchdowns, 12 picks.
Okay. What about rushing?
Not a lot. 242 on 60, but 4 touchdowns.
That's not bad, though. By the way, when you take in sacks into account, that's probably
along the 49. So he's got some athleticism.
I like that.
Yeah,
Look, man, and that's another guy. I've never seen him play. I just feel like, well, he played at TCU, which helps. Yeah. But when you've been the guy,
started Oklahoma, by the way, he was at Oklahoma COVID year, then went to TCU, then North Texas.
He didn't start at Oklahoma, though.
No,
right?
no.
Oh, okay. Though guys like that, a guy at New Mexico, the guy at Liberty, all these guys that have not just played, but had success. And have shown some ability in close moments to either win games or keep their team close or make big plays when it matters. All that stuff matters, and I think all of those guys. That's why whatever this quarterback decision ends up being, it's really really important, and you've got to make sure that you get this thing right. And I think when you think about the Castellanos that played against Norvell the last 2 years, clearly you can understand why he's a fan. I think he counted for 7 touchdowns in 2 games against Florida State. One of them was a good Florida State team, and 600 yards of offense. Like, he did some really good things.
5 touchdowns
in his 2 games against Florida State. So with that in mind, you can understand why Norvell would be really impressed. And then Malzahn is the guy that recruited him. So again, have no idea if he's coming. I do know the rushing attack is immediately better. Also know that he could get hurt, and then where are you? There's a lot of things that could happen, but I just, he's a guy that's played in the ACC. He's played well in the ACC. He's been hard to stop by other ACC defenses.
Okay,
so,
we got it.
Yeah, sorry.
We're minute 30 to talk about Thomas Castellanos. I also want to mention Anthony Calandria, who I liked a lot at Virginia, is also in the portal. St. Pete native. Not good stats, though. I really can't give you a lot of good stats from our guy here. But there was something about the kid. Just I liked his moxie. So we'll see. Again, Caden Salter, another guy in the mix from Liberty. Quarterback, obviously, clearly something that Florida State is going to try to get a hold of. All right, so day 2 of the portal, Corey. Let's talk about what has transpired. Brian Courtney, Lamont Green Jr., a.k.a. Boots, and then another legacy, Julian Armella, as well as Darian Williamson, entered the portal. And Destin Hill. Yeah. Bittersweet on that one. Hope the best for that young man. Some people upset about him. Mike sticking his neck out there for him or, keeping the seat warm. And then this is how you repay him. I don't quite get those vibes, but I understand it. The nature of being a big fan. But the one that happened before we put the show together the other day, Omar Graham. Yeah. That one, of all the guys that have entered, I think that one might tangibly be the biggest loss. Not a monster loss, but I think Destin you can maybe project if he's healthy. I know you and Ira and several people that are out there watching practice this past preseason or during spring felt good about the way Destin was coming along. I necessarily didn't see it or feel it, but rooting for the kid because he was a good story. But Omar Graham played some pretty good football down the stretch for Florida State in an otherwise bleak season. Felt like at least that was one piece you felt good about. You don't know about Juice Cryer because of the injury he sustained and just how ready he'll be for the upcoming season. DeMarco Ward, big question mark. Cam Riley leaving the program, I think, because he's, finished out his career, his eligibility. Blake Nicholson, still probably a little bit 50-50 on just how much you can rely on him. So right now, it seems like, to me, Omar Graham right now of the, I don't know, what are we, a little bit over a dozen, or have we hit a dozen guys that have entered the portal? That's the biggest blow so far. But I guess when you're 2-10, nothing's going to really sting that bad.
Yeah, I think On 3 had Florida State at 10, but they didn't have Destin Hill in there. So it's 11 or 12. And look, man, yeah, there's who could leave that would really upset you?
Landon Thomas.
It would be crushing. I think that's it. Yeah. I think you named the name, which might be a big reason why this team went 2-10. Yeah. There is nobody that played this year of any significant value that you would be crushed if they left, other than a freshman tight end that had 15 catches. That's it. So, with that said, hey, I hope Omar Graham lands somewhere nice. Hope he has a nice end to his career. I don't mean to say be callous here or sound callous, but big deal.
What if it's? Do you think it's leveraging it all possibly? Or would that make you
he ain't
more
good
upset?
enough. He ain't good enough to leverage. Who's he leveraging? A defensive coordinator that probably doesn't want him anyway?
What if he was getting only like $10,000 this past year, and he's like, I'm worth more than that?
Good. Go see. Okay. Because I don't think Tony White doesn't care at all. Tony White might have watched the film and been like, yeah, good luck, man. Godspeed. He also might have been a guy that was told. I have no inside knowledge, but some of these guys, as Mike Norvell talked about last week, will probably be encouraged to look elsewhere for more playing time, or they just weren't a good fit, or whatever. But yeah, I don't think Florida State coaches. And again, this sounds callous. I don't mean it to. Omar Graham ain't a difference maker, man. That's not how you get your program back, is the Omar Grahams of the world. God love you, Omar. Hope you get healthy. I hope you shut me up and win the Butkus next year at Illinois or wherever you end up. But I just don't think that's a big loss. I don't think Destin Hill, as much as I like the story and as much as I like the personality, the guy had 6 catches. Where's he going to go? He's going to LSU. LSU going to give him – I mean, they might because you get an extra 20 roster spots this year. Where's Destin Hill going to go that's better than Florida State? What other possible opportunity who a kid who isn't really contributed in a football game, legitimately contributed in a football game since before COVID, where's he going to end up? What film does he have to show? So, again, more power to him. I hope he wins the Biletnikoff. But I don't know what possible landing spot could be for a Destin Hill when he doesn't have he hasn't proven any real value on a college football team at all. You would think Florida State's the best he can do, and then that makes me think, okay, well, maybe Florida State's not too upset if he's leaving. Like, I don't think they're fighting for him that hard because who are they even fighting for? Who are they fighting against to get Destin Hill? But anyway, and maybe he's just upset that Dugans left or got fired. I don't know. I literally don't know. But all these names, including Jeremiah Byers, who announced he'd be declaring for the NFL draft on
Which
Monday
I think
as well.
he's exhausted all his eligibility.
Yeah, it's weird that he would say that. Maybe he hadn't because
Just
why
create
else
some
do
buzz.
that?
You know, make sure let
there you
everybody
go.
know out there. Mel Kiper, McShay, put me on your boards.
Other than the 2 defensive tackles and Azarie. Oh, good. All right. Fine. I mean, all of you guys, and I know none of them are probably listening to this show, and if they are, Omar, you're my dog. You got to know that, man. All of you guys contributed greatly to a 2-10 season. So there are all this is doing, in my opinion, honestly, and even a guy like Omar Graham, who did produce some. He certainly produced more than most of the guys in the portal. They're just not good enough. They're not good enough at linebacker. Omar Graham was a linebacker who was not good enough, and the defense was not good enough. They have to make serious upgrades. Upgrades.
I think Omar Graham's probably good enough to play linebacker on a 9 or 10 win team.
I mean, maybe. I mean, I guess he did it in 23, but that's the role he could play. Yeah. Like he could be like a DJ Lundy type player on a really good defense. Somebody that gets you 30 snaps a game. Yeah. 35 snaps a game, but he is not a star. He is not even a Kalen DeLoach. He is not a difference maker in any way, shape, or form. I think that has been proven. This program, that side of the ball, but this program, period, needs difference makers. So if you exchange an Omar Graham for a guy that's an NFL player, well, do it. And you save money on keeping Omar Graham happy. And that's only in response to if it was a leverage play. He doesn't have any leverage, man. He doesn't. He's not good enough to have leverage. Landon Thomas has some leverage. Edwin Joseph has leverage. Quindarius might have some leverage. Name some Shaheem. I guess he's got eligibility. He could have some leverage because he started a lot. Blake Nicholson might even have leverage because he's younger and probably has more upside than Omar Graham. Cryer too. I don't think Omar Graham has any upside, and so he's in the portal. We'll see where he lands. Typically, at least since Norvell's been here, the guys that leave Florida State don't go to better programs. They go to worse programs. And we'll see where these guys end up. And it sounds like I'm mad at them. I'm not. I promise I'm not. I'm really not. Like, it's like I think more than anything, they might have been told, hey, man, we don't really see in our 3-3-5 attack, we don't really see somebody like you being a big part of it. You can stay if you want, but we would encourage you to go explore other options. And Destin, same thing. Maybe I don't know why.
Isn't he your best linebacker? Best of a not great bunch.
Yeah, but you're acting like the roster is set. Don't you think they're going to – and no, I don't even think he's your best linebacker. I think Cryer's your best linebacker.
Man, Cryer, we don't even know how he's going to bounce back from a seemingly significant injury, lower body injury. I just feel like, listen, you're going to have 105 guys on scholarship.
Yep.
I remember Ira told me this a long time ago. Like, you're never going to have 22 All-Americans, right? Like, some guys are just not going to be maybe the best, of the entire position groups. But man, like you need a couple guys that can just kind of fill some roles. I feel like, again, like Omar Graham, I don't know why you would tell him to leave, and unless he really has a completely out of this world perception of how good he is and ask for 6 figures. Although I don't know, man. Like, who knows?
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But I'm not saying that he wouldn't have a role somewhere. But I guess I'm trying to explain. I don't think it's a big loss. You can go find Omar Grahams all over this country. You just can. You could go find somebody at another school that had 38 tackles. Or you go find somebody at a smaller school that had 80 or 90 and a couple of picks or a fumble recovery or any big play at all.
But you recruited this kid out of school, out of high school. He's been here for a few years. You've developed him. I mean, I don't know.
Well, he might. I mean, I don't know what happened.
Some of that stuff. All right.
Yeah, I don't know that he was told to leave.
Yeah.
It might have just been him. I know back in the day, it wasn't that long ago. Derek McClendon left, thinking Florida State would love to have him back. And now, while he would have been okay, and he would have been a role player, he went to Colorado. His team went 4-8, and the team he left went 13-0. That doesn't mean they wouldn't have won. They didn't want Derek McClendon, or Derek McClendon didn't have a role on the team, but he thought he would get something better, or be used more, or have more production opportunities in another school, and he went and did it, and it didn't really work out for him. Omar Graham might be living that same life, or they might have told him, we don't foresee you being a part of this defense. I
don't think that. I think it's.
I don't think. But I mean, we don't know.
See what's out there. We don't know, but we don't know a lot of things that we talk about on the show. So we, have conjecture.
We speculate. Yeah,
we speculate. I think more. I would like to think it's more along the lines of, all right, man. Like, you had a pretty good season. If you think you can get yourself in a better position, enter the portal. We'd love to have you. But we're not going to sit here and be held hostage or sit here and negotiate back and forth. This is what we can give you. We love you, man. If it's not good enough for you, good luck elsewhere. So, maybe he puts his foot, he's obviously in the portal. We'll see how many phone calls he gets, whether or not he likes these places. Hopefully bridges aren't burned and he can kind of maybe reach back and double back and be like, you know what? I don't want to leave this place. The grass isn't always greener. I heard what you said after the Florida game, Coach, about everybody that left here and they didn't end up better. So I had a little bit of that scared straight. I needed it. Directly, I had it. Now I want to go to work for you and keep climbing. So,
or he might have went to Norvell's office after Randy Shannon was and just flipped the table.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. You fired Coach Shannon's no longer here. Who is Tony White? What's he ever done? Yeah. Maybe he just lost his mind when the other coaches were let go. So we have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. Most of the times, I think it's kind of mutual. It's when it comes to these decisions, and the same thing goes for Armella, like in Lamont Green Jr. Just wasn't working out here. Doesn't mean they can't go be productive players somewhere else. And I don't have any ill will towards them. I don't have any ill will towards Omar Graham. I was just pushing back on the thought that it was a loss, because I just think
It is a loss.
I mean, it's a loss. It's not. It's a loss.
It's probably you've probably been one of your 15 best players on defense, even when you reload this entire.
But you
thing.
only play 11, so I get what you're saying. He would have been a somebody that would have been a rotation player. But
maybe
again, probably. I don't dispute that. I think he would probably be a rotation player in this upcoming season. But by God, you're hoping some better players than him are coming in the portal, and he might have been told that these are the guys that we're looking at. If you might get squeezed out, if you feel like you might have a better opportunity somewhere else to start, then go explore. And I don't know if people saw this, but Dillingham talked about that on Monday during one of his press conferences for the playoff, which is crazy that Kenny Dillingham is coaching in a playoff game, talking about how he encourages the guys that are going to be leaving the program to go ahead and enter the portal now, to announce their intentions now, and then if they want to stick with the team throughout the playoff run, they can, or they can go to their new home. He just wants them to find the best available spot for them as quickly as possible. So he doesn't he doesn't discourage that at all. In fact, he encourages it. And I only know that because Mark Easton's in the portal. Maybe Mark Easton will run it back.
Yeah.
Come back home. He tweeted about Mark Easton and like 4 or 5 other guys that entered the portal on Monday, and basically said, I want them to be here, but I also know if they stay here for 3 more weeks, then all the spots are taken up and they might not have anywhere to go, and we don't want that either. So they're allowed to go ahead and go on recruiting trips, and they're also allowed to be part of the program. And so I think most coaches probably take that tact. It's just you don't feel as bad when you went 2-10.
All right, so probably the best news that came out of Monday. This is always good when you see a guy that's produced, because that's where I'm coming from. I just want you to produce. I want all the Javen Boggs out there to come to Florida State. FIU receiver Eric Rivers, 5'11", 175, has Florida State on the list, Corey. He caught 62 passes and 12 touchdowns and nearly 1,200 yards this past season. Florida State has made the list.
Okay, that's what I like to hear.
along with 42 other schools.
Oh, well, look.
So, well, I shouldn't say the list. He's, according to our Hayes Fawcett on On3, Eric Rivers has heard from 43 schools since entering the portal. So Florida State, one of them. Got to, it's like the lottery. You got to play to win. You got to be one of the teams reaching out to talk to these guys if you want to pull them in there. So not nearly as maybe heralded as Eric Singleton Jr. or Kevin Concepcion from NC State, but this boy's produced. So I'm fine with it. Finishing the top 5 in receiving yards and touchdowns in all of college football this past year. Kind of goes, maybe that pushed a little bit back. Some people are speculating that maybe Destin left because Mike talked about wanting bigger bodies. He's 5'11", 175, so not a bigger body. But, again, he's produced, clearly. So we'll take one of those guys, hopefully. I don't know what we got to do to get from 43 down to the final 5 or whatever, but hopefully we're one of the ones that stands out.
Where is he from? Do you know?
That's something I probably should have looked up, and I didn't have it ready to go, so I'm just going to stall as I type around. I didn't do a good job of typing. I actually spelled computer thought I spelled Riviera instead of Rivers. He is from Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Okay.
Previous school was Memphis, but not when Mike was there, obviously.
But still has some connections, maybe.
Yeah, maybe they knew
Just
about
throwing that out there, has some connections. Those guys are you want to mix, right? But I love the guys that have produced. I don't care that it's at FIU. He's probably not going to catch, if he came to Florida State or wherever he goes, he's probably not going to have 70 catches for 1,200 yards. But he would be a guy that is produced and knows how to get open, clearly, and knows how to make catches in football games, clearly. So I'm all about those guys. It's crazy, though, by the way. The portal is, like, I'm on Twitter, in every probably third thing on my timeline, third post on my timeline, is another kid entering the portal, and they all say breaking news as if it's the biggest announcement in the world. And it ends up being like a, I don't know, like a South Florida backup guard who's played in 4 career games, and then the next one is a quarterback that's thrown for 6,000 yards in his career. They all have the same feel. It's like, oh, man, who's this? Who's this? Who's this? And occasionally they'll say star. Like South Alabama had a star running back enter the portal. He did score 13 touchdowns this year, but I don't know if he's really a star. But, yeah, it's crazy that the first day of the portal was insane, and it's only going to keep getting more insane. But Nebraska had a couple of really big-time dudes enter the portal on defense that would help this defense immensely.
Yeah, so 3 guys are coming to visit Florida State next week. Edge rushers, James Williams, Princewell, Uman Millian. Probably said that incorrect. I apologize. And linebacker Jamari Butler, which, in case you're wondering, Jamari Butler did not grade out higher than Omar Graham. But he had 22 pressures to Omar's 4, so I'm sure he's listed as a linebacker. PFF has him listed as an edge guy, so they like to use those 3 linebackers in different sorts of ways. The more film you watch of them, you realize it is a 3-3-5, but it's not just like they don't have 3 down linemen. There's usually 4 dudes crowding the line of scrimmage. One of those dudes usually standing up and screaming off the edge, so that's a good thing. But yeah, those 3 guys apparently are all going to be coming together to visit. Uman Millian, Princewell. His brother's name is Princely.
Yeah,
shout out to that family. I think he definitely has multiple years of eligibility. I think James Williams, he might be coming into his last season. He was originally at a junior college and then spent the last 2 years at Nebraska. And Butler is draft eligible in 26. So, yeah, he's got multiple years of eligibility, so that's a good thing.
But those 2 dudes you mentioned first are, I think, 2 of the more highly coveted edge players, defensive linemen in the portal right now. And you happen to have their former coach, their position coach, and their defensive coordinator, and they're coming on a visit. So, again, if you could get the entire Nebraska defense, you would sign up for that right now, today. I'm sure some of them aren't great, but, man, that defense was good, really good at times, and those would be very, very big gets to get any of these guys, but especially those first 2 would be really good gets and a really good start to the portal season.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly, I would
But
say.
they're going to get, I was doing the, so they had whatever they had, 5 or 6 more leave on Monday, at least by the time we're recording this. So now we're up to 35, 37 guys that have left.
We're talking about Nebraska?
No, Florida State, that have left the team from the 2024 team.
Well, you're talking about what, Ryan Fitzgerald's counts?
All of them, yeah. Mastromanno counts. Yeah. The guys that walked on senior day,
okay,
plus the early entries, plus the portal guys. You're almost to half the roster already that has been purged. You're gonna have a few more here, but again, no ill will towards any of these guys. It's a good start. You don't need to try to keep a lot of a team that just went 2-10. You don't. You get a fresh start. You get to hit reset. You're probably going to bring in. You're going to have at least more than. You're going to have more than half a new team. You might have 60% of a new team or 70% of a new team, especially if they go up to 105. I mean, they got right now. They got 40 spots to fill. I don't think they're going to get 40 portal guys. They might, but they've got a ton of roster spots available, which is very good when you go 2-10. You want to replenish very, very quickly.
I guess maybe that's the number, that's the prism that we need to be looking at this through, because I figured there'd be, I don't know, dozens might be putting it a little dramatically, but I figured there'd be more than this trickle that we're getting. Although I don't know. I mean, yesterday, 5 guys left. So that's a significant amount of guys coming off 3 on Sunday. So, I just felt like there'd be more guys that had eligibility that probably were going to, they've got a bunch of offensive linemen that are probably not going to be, but I guess they're waiting for the coach to get announced, and now it's Herb Hand, so maybe they'll now figure out whether or not that's a good or bad thing.
There's been one guy, right? There's been one offensive lineman that's left. We know there's going to be more than that. There's been, I think, Deuce, I guess. So Deuce and Darion and Destin, all the Ds are leaving. But, I don't know how many combined catches that trio has, but I'm guessing it's somewhere around 22 in 4 years. So you're losing those guys, but I think you're not probably done at wide receiver either. You've had 2 tight ends enter. You're going to have some probably more defensive linemen, so maybe another. Who knows? But I think there's at least, I think I did the math right. I think it's 36 that have left, 36 or 37. You've got 20 incoming kids with the prep guys. That still leaves, even if they just stayed at 85 scholarships, that still leaves 17 spots to fill. And we actually know it's going to be more than that. And I think something we should do later in the week, Aslan, is let's look at the depth chart for the Florida game and how many of those guys are going to be back here next year. The starting, at least the starting 22. How many of the starters in the Florida game are going to be back at Florida State next year? Literally,
nobody on that offensive line.
Maybe Rizzo?
Rizzy.
Yeah, that's right. He's got Rizzy. I don't know why I keep saying Rizzo. Rizzy. Landon Thomas, I guess, probably started in that game. You hope he's back. Running back, Toafili obviously isn't. The wide receivers, no. Quarterback might be here, but isn't going to be starting probably. And then the defense. Think about that, man. They might, from the Florida game, they might be returning 2 starters. And nobody is crying about it. Everybody's like, please, can it be 0?
Well,
we all saw that game. I know we all want Landon Thomas, but
if Luke leaves, I think if Luke leaves, there's going to be a lot of upset people.
But it's I get it, but be upset with hindsight. Be upset if he goes somewhere and kills it. But, hold off until then. You know what I mean? Hold off until then. Don't be too upset until we see what he does. I guess that's not how fandom works.
Don't pre-grieve.
Yeah, don't pre-grieve. See what it ends up being. It could be A.J. Duffy, who's back in the portal, by the way. Tay Rodemaker is back in the portal, by the way.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. So there's the guys that leave here don't typically find great success at other places, but he might be different. So
pretty much any quarterback they've recruited out of high school hasn't found success anywhere. So
yeah, you're right. Brock Glenn at least won an ACC championship.
Luke Altmaier messed around and won some games. He never enrolled here, but they heavily recruited him.
Yeah, Altmaier had a good year at Illinois too, I think. Right, he started for him.
Yeah.
That would be a bad play either. I'd like him. I think I'd rather have him than Castellanos, honestly.
Hakeem started.
Okay, all right. That it?
Yeah, I mean
Nicholson?
Yeah.
Did Nicholson start?
Yeah.
Okay. Peyton's not said anything yet, has he?
He has not.
Yeah,
not.
all right.
So everyone be careful.
We're assuming he's not going to be here, but he might be. So for right now, they have like 5 of the 22? And if you count the kickers, 5 of the 24?
A little more than that. KJ Kirkland started. Shaheem Knowles started. Although he might be gone.
No, I think Knowles is done.
Edwin
I
Joseph.
think he's got some eligibility left.
He's listed as a senior, not a redshirt senior, so who knows?
Yeah. But yes, so again, it's going to be a brand new depth chart, which is the modern college football. You don't want it to be this much overturned, probably
Turnover.
moving forward. But when you're 2-10, you do need an absolute purge of the roster. In that they're off to a flying start in that regard, and a purge of the coaching staff, and they're doing well in that area as well.
Mando, smell good, feel good. Created by a doctor, clinically proven to control your musk without aluminum, without baking soda, without dyes, so our shirts remain unbesmirched by glittery residue while keeping us smelling pleasant for up to 3 whole days. Numerous scents, numerous formats. Use the spray for the cleanest application, a stick for that classic feel, or the lotion like cream. Tip, if you're not a big cologne guy like me, try applying some of the cream around your neckline a little bit. Smells splendid without that overpowering punch of bouquets of whatever. Get 40% off the starter pack at shopmando.com by using the promo code WARCHANT. Alternatively, promo code WARCHANT saves you $5 at shopmando.com. We're heading into a new season, everybody. It's winter time. Change up your scent at shopmando.com. Wake Up Warchant, Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com, promo code warchantbogo. Please use that. Please. All right, man. Wow. Yeah. Geez, that was a lot of portals talk. But this is the lifeblood of things right now, man. It's exciting. I do hope we get some more names, or we start seeing the Florida State logo on some more of these graphics. I think one of the other names before we transition to talk about Herb Hand, Isaiah Word out of Nevada, had not given up a sack all year as their starting left tackle. But On3 reporting does not have Florida State in the mix as of right now, but who knows? Again, maybe Herb Hand can make some phone calls as he gets settled into his office.
We should talk a little bit more about Herb before the show's over.
No, that's what I was going to transition to it there.
Well, real quick, we should add that Jarrell Powers, as we're recording this, has entered the portal as well.
Man.
So losing tight ends left and right.
If I was petty, I would go back and find all the interviews where, Mike was like, oh, Brian Corney's going to help us win games. Jarrell Powers, he's going to be something for us. But I won't do that, Mike. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be quiet until the Miami game because you're going to give back $2.5 million.
I think Brian Courtney had a catch in the Florida game last year, right? Didn't he? I feel like Rodemaker hit him for something in the Florida game. I could be wrong. Anyway, go ahead.
So the Herb Hand hire is just like a microcosm. It comes back to the headlines discussion you guys had like 10 years ago probably, where who likes their offensive line coach. But Herb Hand has been at Penn State. He's been at Texas. He was at Auburn with Gus. When it comes to like coaching scoop and like the really hardcore dudes that are in the AFCA, American Football Coach Association culture, like they all love Herb Hand. Like Herb Hand is, his teaching tape is, is like the TikTok for high school coach and stuff. Like everybody loves Herb Hand. So like he's got pretty much like a pretty impeccable resume. But like when you see it announced, you got Texas fans that make snide comments, UCF fans that make snide comments, Auburn fans that make snide comments. Where it all comes, want to remind everybody, it's probably a really good hire.
Yes.
It's hard to think of a resume better than him that's out there right now that you could reasonably have pulled this thing off. Now, listen, why did it take him so long? Did he want to be here? Did he have some other options? Was he holding out for something? Who knows? You all can speculate on that. I'm not going to. But let's all remember that there's going to be a game probably where they might get sacked 4 times in a game. And you're going to get really upset. But hopefully it will be offset. And I don't even know hopefully is the right. I think it will be offset by multiple games where they're going to probably pound the hell out of the ball and make a team wilt into submission. So 56 years old from Westmoreland, New York. Corey, your thoughts on Herb Hand, offensive line coach. 5 years experience working hand in hand with Gus Malzahn.
I think more than that because I think you worked with him at Tulsa too.
No, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
And he worked with him at least 2 years at Auburn, and then the last 4 at UCF. So I think 7 or 8 years. Look, I don't know how anybody could have an issue with the hire. I don't know that anybody does. I might be preaching to nobody. But when you look at what UCF has done the last 4 years running the ball, just UCF. I mean, again, this year they're top 10 in the country in rushing yards per game. This year. And they did not have John Rice Plumlee at quarterback. They did not have a very mobile kid at quarterback. And they still ran that. And they had a running back run for 1,500 yards. He was the offensive line coach Saquon Barkley's freshman year. He was the offensive line coach at Texas for 2 years. That I assumed helped recruit some guys that got them into the playoff a few years ago, even though he wasn't there because he was at UCF. I just like the fact, and he was at Auburn. He was at Auburn when they were finalists for the best offensive line in the country in 2017, when they had a very, very good offense.
Won the SEC West.
Yeah. So when you look at it from that point of view, I don't know what else you could want. It is a guy with a resume and with a track record. And he also has a track record of not just putting up huge numbers against, I don't know, in the MAC. I mean, he did it in the SEC, and then he did it in the Big 12. At UCF, and I'm not even talking about Texas. I'm talking about when he was at UCF. They ran against everyone.
And the Big Ten at Penn State.
Yeah, the Big Ten. So, I just think he's a guy that knows what it's like to coach an offensive line that opens up holes for Saquon Barkley. All right, you know what I mean? He's been around one of the best that's ever done it, and he's opened up holes. I like guys that have seen that up close, that have had those kind of dudes on their team.
Guys are in the league. Guys are in the league, man.
And I just like that. I like that a lot. I like that a ton of his offensive linemen got all conference honors. A ton of them. I don't know how many are in the league. It didn't look like a ton, honestly.
Well, Donovan Smith, who plays for the Bucks, that's the guy he coached. Braden Smith is a guy that he coached at Auburn. That was all SEC. I think he's with the Colts currently.
All right, so you've already named 2 more than the last guy had.
Yeah.
In the NFL, and I just think when you're the most important thing is this is a marriage that works with an offense and an offensive line, because Malzahn's used them in 3 different decades now. Malzahn has used this guy as his offensive line coach, and they've set records where they've been. So that's good. But also the fact that he has done it at a really high level, and I mean at a high level as regards to against good competition in the elite leagues. This is nothing against Alex Atkins. I guess it is, because I'm about to finish this sentence and this thought. But he was at Tulane and Charlotte. He didn't have to coach against Ohio State. He didn't have to go recruit against all these other guys to get people to come to Texas or Penn State or UCF or Auburn. And he's coached against Alabama. He's coached against multiple first-round picks on the defensive line of scrimmage in his career and pushed them out of the way. Find a way to move them so they could run the ball. That, to me, you trust what he's doing. Now, he might not have a lot of great groceries to work with in year 1. Hopefully he will. Hopefully people will be attracted enough to his name and this offense to come want to play for them. But that he can do it at this level because he's done it at this level. He's done it at a higher level than 2-10 for sure. So that's why I'm very, very encouraged. It's the same thing with and it's also the guy that Gus wants and Gus is comfortable with. And you do need that. Nothing can be worse than an OC not knowing who his offensive line coach is or not working with him well. And they all want their own guy. And you got Gus's own guy, which is very, very good. Again, Norvell and Atkins made it work for a couple of years there, and I'm talking more about 2021 and 2022. I think Jordan Travis and Keon and Benson masked some problems with the offensive line last year. But, Norvell had never worked with Atkins before. That wasn't his O-line coach. His O-line coach at Memphis that helped them set all those records to get to the Cotton Bowl, he stayed to be the head coach. So Norvell had to go hire an offensive line coach. That at the end of the day, 5 years later, it was a bad marriage. It didn't work out. They were awful, and they were awful running the ball. Malzahn and this guy, Malzahn in hand, have proven everywhere they've been that they are going to run it down your effing throat, and they can do it everywhere they've been. So although Florida State seems to be completely and utterly adverse to actually recruiting and developing linemen, you have to imagine that this time it will work because you've got two guys that have done it in whatever conference Tulsa's in, the SEC. Now Herb Hand was and in the Big 12, and then Hand has also done it at Texas and Penn State. So I'm very encouraged by this hire, just like I was encouraged with Tony White getting Knighton. Like, he knows what he wants from those guys up front. He knows what kind of position coach he wants and what they're being taught and how they're being developed. And he didn't just go get a guy like Knighton. He went and got Knighton. And Malzahn didn't go get a guy that was kind of like Herb Hand or has some similar qualities. He went and got Herb Hand. So, again, you've given your DC and your OC the absolute best fits you could possibly give them to succeed here. So I'm excited about it.
Also, the starting center this past season for the UCF Knights, graded out at 67.8, Caden Kittler, and he is in the transfer portal, boys and girls. So
okay, you know why I like it? I think the portal is so, to me, and I know maybe I'm in the minority. The portal is so much more exciting than recruiting.
I was thinking about. Sorry, go ahead.
But I just think because we don't have to guess what the guy from FIU is like as a college player, or Thomas Castellanos is as a college player,
there you go.
Or one of these linemen is like as a college player. We know what they're like because we have 20 games or 30 games of film of them going up against other 21-year-olds, not them as an offensive lineman pile driving some poor 255-pound sophomore in high school into oblivion. We know that these guys can play at this level. We know their names, some of them. Some of them are big names or sort of big names, and it just, I don't know. It's a little more exciting to know. When it's high school, it's all about, like, what the rankings tell you. But with oh, this guy must be good. They have 4 stars by his name or 5 stars by his name, or he's a 91.22 grade. But in the portal, you kind of know a lot of these guys because you can go watch every single play they've had and know who they're playing against.
I was thinking about, I wish you could be at a place, because I do miss high school recruiting, because it's cool. It is cool to not know, and then for whatever reason, put your chips behind some kid and then see him work out. And then you're like, this is awesome. Yeah. You know, it's like raising a puppy or something. It's like when you just see it like grow and you're like, it's awesome. It's my guy. It's my girl or whatever. I wish you could be at a place where you could crush it in both, but like it's Georgia crushes it, Oregon crushes it, and then they get that 1 or 2, 3 pieces that finishes things off. So that's kind of exciting, right? Like there's these, high-end guys, polished and ready to go, bring them onto your program, and you keep this thing running. But it'd be nice to be in the mix for these like top 5 high school recruiting classes and then bring in a dozen portal guys. But I just don't think it's going to work that way. So,
I think that's the sweet spot. Obviously it's a sweet spot. It's what Georgia and Ohio State are doing. They recruited at an incredibly high level and develop their guys so they get to sit behind all conference players for a year or two, and then when it's their time to shine, they've been rubbing elbows with these guys for 2 years. They're hungry, and they go and play, and they're NFL-type players. But you do have some holes, and you get to go fill them with like Etienne from Florida, or Etienne. Is it Etienne?
Etienne, I think.
But Georgia goes and gets like 5 or 6. That's the sweet spot. Maybe 8. I think I'd want more than 5. That's not as fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Like all this nonsense.
But I think that is the place to be where you have, what you have coming back. Like Georgia next year knows, and again, Georgia's as good as it is in the country, so it's not a fair comparison right now when you're 2-10. But they know, okay, we got these 2 badasses at this position. We got a great safety. We've got, and I'm talking about the guy that was committed to Florida State. He's going to be here for a couple more years. Don't have to worry about that. We've got these 5-star corners. We got the whatever, blah, blah, blah. But we got about 5 holes here that we can go get, and we could go get really, really good ones. Like guys that were awesome, even in our own conference, that want to come play at Georgia. And that's what they've been doing. And that's a really fun place to be. But as we just said, when you look at Florida State's depth chart from the Florida game, nothing but holes. It's a canyon. It's not just a road with some potholes. It drives off into over a cliff. There's nothing but holes on that roster. Georgia has a few here and there. Florida State, it's a chasm. So that's you'd like to get where you just have a few potholes and not a whole road that just disappeared.
15 seconds. Is Bill Belichick going to be the next head football coach in North Carolina?
I hope so, just because, and I know the joke has been made, just so you can hear him say, we're on to Boston College. That would be really funny to hear him. It'd just be really funny to see him in a college environment, right?
Yeah.
Just to see him deal with college kids and college reporters, it would be unbelievable. But I don't, is he bringing Tom Brady with him?
I don't think so.
Probably not, and I don't know if that's a guaranteed success. Nobody's arguing he's going to be – North Carolina would have a decided schematic advantage over most teams they played. But, he's also 70-something years old and hasn't coached college, I don't think, since the 70s. So,
I was going to say, I wonder if that would ruin his legacy, but Bill Walsh went back and didn't do great, and no one ever talks about that. So,
not only did he not do great, he snapped at Chris Fowler one time on College Game Day. Do you remember that clip?
No,
when
Bill Walsh?
Back when Fowler used to go out, when they did it in studio, so they didn't do live stuff. He went out to do a story on Bill Walsh, like coming back to college, like the third game of the year. And Fowler asked some question that Bill Walsh didn't like and snapped at him. I think he even hit the papers out of his hand, but I might be confusing that with Vince McMahon and Bob Costas. Similar interviews.
Oh, I love Bill Walsh. All right, go check out warchant.com. 5 early transfer portal targets to watch on offense for Florida State. Offensive line on there.
Yeah. Oh, and also shout out to whoever the elderly person was at that McDonald's in Alatoona, Pennsylvania. How about that? Why are you in Pennsylvania? I mean, why are you in McDonald's? I shouldn't have said Pennsylvania. That's crazy. What a crazy story that is, Aslan. Just throwing that out there. And it's somebody, a good citizen. And they called him, what I'm really curious about, Aslan, once all these documentaries are made, every mention of that patron at McDonald's called them elderly. Yeah. And I wonder, okay, does that mean they were 61 or 90 or 52? Like, I'm getting close to elderly. So I want to know exactly what the cutoff is to call someone elderly or older. Like, what constitutes elderly? I haven't seen the age of the person that actually did it yet.
Yeah, I mean, your 70s, or look like you're in your mid-70s, I would say.
Okay. You think, 68 isn't elderly? I don't think it is. I'm just asking.
No, I don't think so, no.
Well, we'll see. We'll see when we find out who this guy was eating his Egg McMuffin and noticed. That's good stuff.
They might want to keep their name. They might want to be anonymous themselves. They might not want people to know that it was them that did it.
That's not true. They'll start a cryptocurrency. Whoever that was will start a crypto-based currency here in a little bit. How about the Hawk Tuah girl?
Oh, boy.
I know I'm all over the place.
Do you want to talk about Bashar Assad getting thrown out of Syria, too, while we're at it?
Yeah. But
what it's going to mean for
how about the Hawk Tuah girl? Not only does she have a podcast now, but she just started her own cryptocurrency and apparently bilked millions out of her fans, in quotes. It's just crazy what a time we live in, Aslan. That's all I'm saying. It's just a crazy time we live in.
She did that?
Yeah. I just saw it on my YouTube algorithm. Apparently it wanted me, and I clicked on it.
$50 million?
Yeah. So.
Oh, my God, I want to vomit.
Yeah, yep. So, hey, I just keep telling Brady, go find something you do well.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
Seminole headlines.
Yeah, that's right. Seminole headlines, day of one. We'll talk about other things besides Hawk Tuah and elderly people, I promise.
Probably no show tomorrow since I'll be suspended with pay.
For what? What are you suspended for again?
For reading premium content.
Oh, yeah. No, okay. I thought you were going to read my column.
No. Won't do that.
Actually, everything I wrote in the column, everybody heard verbatim on the show, so no need to do that.
Subscribe to warchant.com if there's really important stuff, and we'll determine whether it's important or not. Really important. We'll put something together for you folks. Otherwise, Wednesday live show 6 p.m. Corey, yeah?
Sounds good. Sounds good, buddy. No more. Hey, no. I guess we will talk about Castellanos, but I promise. I just think he could be. I was thinking real quick, Aslan. As we sign off,
I'm literally going to name this show. I think usually I try to give it a snappy title, or I summarize what the show's
Corey
about.
Just talks too much.
No, I think it's just going to be the Thomas Castellanos show.
But what about how does he compare to Plumlee? Because isn't that what kind of like Malzahn and at UCF, the Plumlee kid?
Plumlee was a baseball player. I mean, I think he has I don't know if he's got he's on an NFL roster. I think he probably has a much more live, polished.
But he wasn't
arm.
a gifted passer. Like he didn't.
No.
I mean, he wasn't a real accurate passer. Anytime I watched them play, it was his running that was so impressive.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what Malzahn's thinking is like this kid could be my Plumlee at Florida State for a year. That's all. So that's all I'm saying, folks. That's all I'm saying. But trust Gus. Trust Gus. You owe it to him. He gave you a national championship in 2013.
Are you ready to ask him? Is anybody going to ask him that tomorrow at the press conference? Which, by the way, the press conference Wednesday morning, Tony White, Gus Malzahn. Will anybody ask him about that game? Like
They better, yeah.
Did you tell Damian to do something, or did Damian?
Oh,
tell
I
you?
thought you just meant like how does he like walking around the halls and seeing all the Florida State pictures from that night?
Has Mike let you touch the crystal ball?
Have you seen it yet? Do you want to smash it? Are you happy?
We should do the interview right in front of the 2013 championship trophy.
Yeah, or a picture like behind him instead of the Florida State backdrop with whatever their sponsor is. It's that picture of Jimbo smiling with his eyes closed, holding the crystal ball up.
Oh, man.
Good times.
So much content. Warchant.com. Transfer portal. On3's got you covered like nobody else. When you subscribe to Warchant.com, you get everything in the On3 network, including being able to read the Miami message boards as they continue to grieve for their team not making the playoff, if you're into that kind of thing. He's Corey Malzahn. You can listen to Corey on Seminole Headlines from 1 to 3 o'clock. Do that. We'll be back. Live show Wednesday, 6 o'clock. We've been brought to you by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Use that promo code WarChantBogo. We'll talk to you folks soon.